Gambia government's COVID-19 relief package distribution reaches final stages. Tanzanian government is closing COVID-19 treatment centers in the country as number of cases decline. And Kenyan railways have resumed operation as government eases emergency restrictions after closing for over 3 months. This and more coming on The World Today. Hello, this is iAfrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am Amadou Kante. Many thanks for joining us, and now the news in detail. Now, Gambia's government's COVID-19 relief food package is on the completion stages, according to the country's vice president. She made the remark on Wednesday while responding to concerns raised by members of the National Assembly on the level of progress since May. Details of that in this report.
Gambia's vice president has said that 80% of the government COVID-19 relief food package has been distributed barely 2 months after the launch of the initiative. Dr. Aissatou Toure was responding to concerns raised by parliamentarians regarding the food distribution. Government approved over $700 million worth of food commodities to support vulnerable households across the country amid the impact of the COVID-19 global pandemic. She reported of challenges during the distribution that prompted the introduction of mechanisms to extend the support to more households in the rural communities.
And at the moment, last week, Saturday, we had the whole team sitting down to assess where do we have the gaps, because as we move, like I told you earlier, this is one of the biggest humanitarian response that we are giving. And we are reaching out to 100% of the rural communities. Means that we are facing challenges. But 80% is already accessed, so the remaining will be done. It's in progress and it will be taken note of.
Vice President Toure said the government has also outlined measures to complete the distribution of the remaining food items in recognition of the rainy season. She assured the Assembly of a report on the project once the distribution is completed.
Honorable Speaker, would the Honorable with Her Excellency the Vice President inform this August Assembly whether they have mechanisms in place to ensure that there is fair distribution of this relief? Because we've got complaints of some families having half bags or having rice, not having cooking oil. Do you have the mechanism in place to ensure that at the end of the day you will account for everything, that there was fair distribution, extensive distribution?
Yes, indeed. There are. And even before we started the operations, those mechanisms were put in place. We worked with a framework that looked at the whole population, the various types of families, the information, the data, and all the processes are in place. So the issue of accountability and reporting back is not a problem. It's a question of completing the exercise and then coming back to tell you this is what it is as the process is going on. But definitely the mechanisms are there.
She also informed members of the National Assembly of the statistics around the relief packages as of July 2020.
Honorable Speaker, so far as at the 1st of July 2020, the actual amount of rice, sugar, and oil dispatched to the regions were 236,269 50 kg bags, 237, 189 50 kg bags, and 71,416.5 20-liter gallons, respectively. On the distribution to the beneficiaries, a total of 194,292.5 50 kg bags of rice, 194,292.5 50 kg bags of sugar, and 151,105.5 10-liter gallons of oil were distributed.
There is increase in number of COVID-19 cases in the past 2 months in the country, with the death toll at 3 since March this year, out of more than 60 cases. As a result, President Barrow on Wednesday announced a fresh declaration of state of public emergency to last for 7 days. By this latest declaration, the public is being advised to take all precautionary measures to protect themselves and others in a bid to curtail the spread of the COVID-19.
And from the report, next we head to Kenya, because after a business shutdown for more than 3 months, the Kenyan Railway linking major cities of Mombasa and the capital Nairobi has resumed as government eases COVID-19 restriction. The move, which is meant to revive the country's economy from the effects of the virus, has been welcomed by citizens. New preventive measures came along with the return of the traffic by the railway authorities. Details of that in this report.
Kenya has resumed operations on a railway route linking its major cities of Mombasa and Nairobi. The reopening comes after nearly 100 days of closure due to the pandemic. Passengers are required to observe physical distancing, wear masks, wash their hands, and have their temperatures taken. Ticket payments are done online. Many citizens have welcomed this move.
It's faster, it's conducive, there's social distancing. Yeah, and it's good that we are returning the economy back. Yeah.
You don't feel like risky to
No,
get on the train?
I trust the train. I trust my service.
The social distancing is okay because this is one of the biggest measures that needs to be put in place. And it's just about the passengers now to follow the measures so that we stay safe, all of us.
You see, passengers are coming. They're going from Nairobi to Mombasa. I think there's exchange in currency in thing, and it makes the economy grow.
Train staff must wear full sets of protective gears, and all those working for the railway must take a COVID-19 test before coming back to work.
And from the report there in Nairobi, Kenya, we come back home because the 4th edition of the Africa Anti-Corruption Day has been commemorated by the Anti-Corruption Coalition in the Gambia on Wednesday. The event this year called for fighting corruption through effective and efficient judicial system. The Gambia has since 2005 been part of the 44 AU member states that have ratified the Convention and the Prevention and the Combating of Corruption. Here's more details of that in this report.
In commemoration of the 4th edition of the African Anti-Corruption Day under the theme Fighting Corruption Through Effective and Efficient Judicial System, the Anti-Corruption Coalition in the Gambia observed that the process is generally slow. According to the organization, the prolonged formation of the anti-corruption bill that has lasted for 8 years and the lack of adequate resources for the judiciary were among the impeding factors to the attainment of a corrupt-free state. Abdoulaye Jadama, chairman of Anti-Corruption Coalition, alleged that the government had shown limited movements in policy actualization and implementation of anti-corruption commitment to the African Union.
The Gambia should take every effort to submit a periodic report, which is also another fundamental requirement that we fail in, and allow country visit by African Union Advisory Board in the coming year. The level of anticipated corruption is further taken for granted due to the fact that the government of the Gambia is not doing enough to investigate of public sector corruption from both civil society, the whistleblowers from media, public service, and international organizations. Clear example is the recent statement made by the current Minister of Health on massive cane of corruptions at the Ministry of Health.
Mar Nyang, a member of the coalition working group, asserts that it would have been more appropriate for the parliament to look into the anti-corruption bill before spending more resources on other errands.
So, always I keep saying, hadn't been we have the anti-corruption commission, then we will not be talking about these commissions, spending millions of dollars into these commissions. The anti-corruption commission, the anti-corruption bill has been at the National Assembly for a while now. In 2019, I think the president said the anti-corruption commission should be, not the president, the Minister of Finance. During the budget speech, he made mention that the anti-corruption commission should be in operation by end of 2019. So come 2019, we have not seen the anti-corruption commission being enforced, but the bill was passed in early December 2019. To date, we have been seeing bills that have been going in and out of the National Assembly, and that the Finance and Public Accounts Committee is still looking into that anti-corruption bill.
The Gambia has since 2005 been part of the 44-member state of the African Union that rectified the Convention on the Prevention and Combating Corruption. The West African state has made stride in the fight against corruption, which is attested in the reformation of the criminal codes and procedures and the Commission of the Jana Commission to probe into assets under the former president of the Gambia. For iAfrica TV News, Awa Makalo.
And of course, from that report there by our Makalo, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV, and now to the rest of the stories. Now, Tanzania has made significant progress in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, prompting government to close a few treatment centers in the country. Business in the capital is returning to the normal speed after schools were reopened last month following a declaration by the president. Here's more details of that.
Tanzania's government has closed many of its centers designated to treat coronavirus patients across the country. It claims that the number of coronavirus patients at the centers has fallen, with some reporting 0 COVID-19 admissions in over a month. However, it is asking the public to remain cautious. On the streets of Dar es Salaam, business is returning to normal. President John Magufuli also ordered the reopening of schools on the 29th of June after 3 months of closure.
I feel good because I am a businesswoman. Before the closures, I feared seeking and distributing my products, but when I heard about the closing of the centers, it gave me confidence. I am grateful to the Tanzanian government because I can now source my products and distribute it to my clients.
News of the closure of COVID-19 centres is comforting. It's giving us the courage to go on with our activities, business, work. The government has even agreed to reopen schools, so for us this problem has reduced.
While Tanzania has lifted its COVID-19 restrictions, the World Health Organization has raised concerns that if such measures are relaxed too quickly, COVID-19 cases could start increasing rapidly. Due to concerns about COVID-19, the US and British embassies in Tanzania have asked their personnel and families to exercise caution in their day-to-day activities. Some of their nationals have left the country. However, the government says Tanzania is safe. It has opened its skies, allowing international flights and tourist activity to resume. The World Bank recently declared Tanzania a lower middle-income country. The government hopes the closure of its COVID-19 treatment centers will allow the country to focus more energy and resources on maintaining and growing its economy even further.
And from the report there in Tanzania, next to matters of the ICJ, because the International Court of Justice has delivered ruling in favor of Qatar in the ICAO appeal case of 2018. The UN Court unanimously rejected the appeal by Bahrain, Egypt and the United Arab Emirates in questioning the ruling between the coalition and Qatar over aviation concern. Sona Tunkara has more in this report.
The International Court of Justice has unanimously rejected the appeal by the Kingdom of Bahrain, the Arab Republic of Egypt and the United Arab Emirates from the decision of the Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization in June 2018. The judgment by the principal judicial organ of the United Nations stemmed from the appeal relating to jurisdiction of the ICAO Council involving the coalition against Qatar.
The court, 1, unanimously rejects the appeal brought by the Kingdom of Bahrain, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. 2, by 15 votes to 1, holds that the Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization has jurisdiction to entertain the application submitted to it by the government of the State of Qatar on 30 October 2017, and that the said application is admissible.
In 2017, Qatar's neighbors Bahrain, Egypt, and the UAE formed a coalition and imposed a blockade on Doha. This led to restrictions of Qatar's flights from their airspace, and a shutdown of the only land border with Saudi Arabia was closed down. The move, according to Saudi-led coalition, cited Qatar's alleged involvement in the support for terrorism. They insisted that Qatar had violated a 2014 agreement with the members of the Gulf Cooperation. The state of Qatar took up the matter to the International Civil Aviation Organization in 2018, accusing its neighbors of breaching the convention governing international aviation. The case was, however, decided in their favor. The opposing countries, discontented by the rulings of the ICAO, filed an appeal to the International Court of Justice, saying the ICAO lacks the jurisdiction to settle their dispute. But then the International Court of Justice has earlier this week rejected their Saudi-led coalition appeal, forming the powers of the ICAO.
Many thanks, Sona Tunkra, for that insightful report there. And finally, we end the news in Ethiopia because the long-standing deadlock among the state of Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan over River Nile Dam remains unresolved despite the latest round of talks among the three. After more than 10 years of dispute, the leaders were hopeful of a breakthrough, but the Ethiopian government said it will not agree on any deal that will marginalize the interests of her people. Here's more details of that in this report.
The leaders of Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan were hopeful that the African Union brokered talks on Ethiopia's mega dam could help end a decade-long dispute. The latest round of talks have, however, ended without any agreement on the way forward. Ethiopia's government says it will not agree to any deal that jeopardizes its people's long-term interest in the Nile waters.
They are insisting on foreclosing the future use of the Nile River for the coming generations of Ethiopia, which Ethiopia cannot succumb to. This is an agreement that Ethiopia cannot take because Ethiopia would like to use it. Ethiopia does have a share, a rightful share of the Nile River. Ethiopia should use it, should utilize it.
Ethiopia plans to begin filling what will become Africa's largest hydropower generating dam. It aims to generate 700 megawatts of electricity right after filling its initial reservoir.
Basically, Ethiopia has started this dam. The dam is being built, and it's being built to be filled. Definitely, when the time comes, it's to be filled. I think His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, has said it very well when he reported to the Parliament.
In the meantime, Addis Ababa maintains it wants to resolve any differences with Nile downstream nations such as Egypt through an African-led initiative.
Ethiopia believes and has a big respect for African wisdom. Africa has a big wisdom. Africa can deal with its own problem by itself, and we don't see a need for taking an African issues to the other part of the world.
The timetable for the filling and operation of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam remains the main contentious issue between Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Ethiopia has time and again insisted the completion of the dam will benefit all countries, including Egypt and Sudan.
Well, viewers, that report there in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, finally brings this news bulletin to an end. But as always, as ever, for more details on this and other stories, you can also log on website on africa.tv. Well, once again, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.
dama kontaan bu baax sax si ñëw bi nga ñëw seet si suma tabax gi kontaan naa ci trop trop.
maa gën a kontaan bi ma ñëwee fekk sa tabax bi toll fii waaye nag man kontaanuma ci sama kër gi man.
lu xew
ndax umpale wu loon ñoo bokkoon nekk Europe.
dëgg la
jamono yu ñu nekkee foofu yëpp man ak yow maa ngi am benn waay maa ngi ko yónnee xaalis bu bari pour mu sampal ma suma kër. te ba léegi tabax bi àggul fenn. te yow nga waxoon ma ne ma bi nga starté samp yàggul léegi nga toll fii.
li waral loolu nag mooy dama ànd ak waa Baluwo.
kon su ma la déggee Baluwo dañuy yëngu ci samp kër tamit.
ni ngay def nag yomb na da ngay log on to www.baluwo.com mun ngaa jënd ci ñoom ciment suuf banta weñ ba ci daaj yi nga xam ne di nga ko soxla lépp lu jëm ci wàllu samp rek mun nga koo am ci lu yomba ak Baluwo daal yaay dugal sa xaalis fi nga ko bugga amee ko ci ni nga ko buggee.